Yeah! One! Break the wall! Break down the walls! Flip over to back and watch the
Just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. You and I. Well, technically it's three, right, Maddie? It's you, it's me, and it is the viewers out there. And welcome to a Thursday edition of the Ysn Power Hour. DJ Yoakley here, and Matt Seidel right there. And it is joining, well, it's going to be the two of us. Everybody else out on assignment or ready to do their games that's coming up this weekend. First and foremost, Mr. Seidel, how are you?
I'm doing really well today, DJ. You know, I think everybody's in for a treat getting the real A-team here.
Oh, look what you did. Look what you started. Because you know Billy Mack's going to be in the comments in about 30 seconds talking about the A-team.
Bring it.
First and foremost, I want to thank Youngstown Pizza Reviews and my buddy Jeremy and Gracie for hooking me up with this shirt. Make sure you check them out. And, of course, the second round, I believe, starts tomorrow. We have down to our Elite 8 of the Youngstown pizza places, or the area pizza places, I should say. But if you're looking for the down low on the best Youngstown pizza reviews, you need to go to their Facebook page. Their website is up, but their Facebook page, just so much information. So thanks to Jeremy and Gracie for the hookup here. We're returning the favor with some YSN swag as well. So if you want to be seen on YSN, make sure that, pick a size because we'll distribute it. I'm a large. Matt, what size are you?
I'm a 2X.
2X. So if you want a 2X and you want Maddie to be sporting your business, make sure you send it over here or send it over towards Matt and be in contact. There's his Twitter handle, SeidelMD, correct?
That's basically everything for me. Twitter, Instagram, you can find me there. You can also find me at Sebring Trojans FB.
There you go. So Sebring Trojans football, naturally. So we want to do right by our awesome small businesses here locally. So if you're a small business, looking to get a jump start, some advertising. And this is the shirts. If you send us shirts or hats, we're going to wear them. It won't cost you anything other than sending them here. We'll promote you and say some good words about you. But if you'd like to advertise, we do have advertising promotions on YSN right now, and that does include the Ysn Power Hour, Running Point, and all the great things that we're working on right now in the beta phases with some food stuff, with some gas station stuff, which nobody else is really excited about this except for me. Like, I want to see people try gas station food.
I don't know about all that. We'll be back for Betos.
Listen, I'm willing to subject myself to it. I'm ready for it. I will go to gas station food and I will say, "What's your specialty?" and we'll try it out. And Quinn's got some fancy ones already for it. So, morning beacon gear coming at you. I'll take some morning beacon gear.
Heck yeah.
I'll get you guys a polo for our golf club. There we go. So we're in. We'll promote the hell out of you, Mo. We try to do that anyway.
Yeah, we like golf clubs.
We do.
Get DJ and I out there on the course maybe once or twice this summer.
Listen, if there's cigars and golf, I'm down for it.
Couple maybe lattes.
I was gonna say a couple Bush lattes and maybe a Natter Day or two, and we're good to go.
For the boys.
Gotta have Natter Day for the boys. All right, it is national. Let's get to the national day at hand. It is National Medal of Honor Day. So, that being said, Matt, it's obviously a prestigious medal. It's one of the highest ranking medals in all of the world. Talk to me about if you could give a Medal of Honor to anybody, whether coach, player here locally, who would it be and why?
Yeah, I'm going to go a little bit different on this one, DJ. And I've got an uncle that was actually a prisoner of war in World War II, and he passed away. But the stories that he told were just incredible about being shot down and taken prisoner of war, and basically, only being able to get a couple of letters out to his parents. I think, when he went into the Army, he was about 175 pounds. When he came back from, being a prisoner of war over there, he was down to about $145. Just skin and bones and getting back to it. But, he was a hero for our town growing up too. I remember seeing him at all the Veterans Day ceremonies and things like that. And, the way that he spoke so highly of the guys that were National Medal of Honor recipients, he said the stuff that I've gone through pales in comparison to some of the stuff that those guys have done. I think about stories like Kyle Carpenter, who, is a recent Medal of Honor recipient. The things that he's doing to just, promote our veterans and make sure that they've got the things that they need going forward. I think that this is an incredible day to celebrate and, and remember and just say thank you.
Yeah, before we started YSN, I actually worked for a military advertising company in Coriopolis, and kind of sparked my whole belief in starting my own business because of the leadership that was over there and what they were able to do. But I had some great conversations with some heroes, both from the military spouse perspective as well as in the military itself. One of my really most humbling moments was at our Military Spouse of the Year event. We met Taya Kyle, and it was unbelievable. Obviously, anybody that knows that story of Chris Kyle, and I mean all the recognition over the books and the movies with was it Bradley Cooper, right?
Cooper, yeah.
And it's an unbelievable story. But when you're talking Medal of Honor, yes, you want the highest ranking people that ultimately sacrificed sometimes their life and made the ultimate sacrifice. But for this perspective, I think that a Medal of Honor here locally for sports, if we were to concoct one of those, one of the people that I think about most is a guy who is here on the wall. It's Coach Dan Yeagley. Yeah. For me, he's one of the deans of the coaching area as it is now. One of the best to do it. One of the best people that you'll ever meet in your life, and we'll give you the shirt off his back. We'll give you just so forgiving, so kind, and you know what? He'll give you a kick in the butt when you need it. But he does everything he does for the kids and for South Range, and it's his alma mater, and he believes in in his school. There's so many that are from the Dan Yeagley coaching tree, and he's impacted their life that if I had a Medal of Honor for sports, that's where it would go, at least as it sits. He's so high up on my scale of people in this world, and that's why he's on the wall here. You know what I mean? No matter what happens, that guy is a first-rate human being and a first-rate gentleman. And not to mention, I haven't even got to the football coach part of it. So
I've got to tell you, DJ, taking it in that kind of a direction, I couldn't agree with you more on Coach Yeagley. And one of the things that I think people don't realize that he does is behind the scenes, he's been an incredible mentor to a lot of young coaches. And even a lot of young coaches that haven't necessarily come off of his coaching tree. My first kind of run-in with Coach Yeagley was at one of our Quad County Coaches Association meetings. I'm sitting there, a 34-year-old brand new head coach, never done this before, walking into my first meeting, not sure how to act, not sure how to react. Coach Yeagley sits down beside me and says, "Hey, I'm Dan. Anything I can do for you, let me know." And I was blown away by that. And as a young coach, that's something I strive to be someday.
What other coaches are out there? I mean, maybe not necessarily in that, but I mean, you are a young coach, for all intents and purposes. What other coaches are out there like that have really made themselves available to you, especially knowing, and this is, I hope you don't take offense to this, the program that you're leading right now, Sebring's had its troubles over the last decade, 2 decades.
No, definitely. I think, Coach Yeagley's definitely at the top of that list. But, I think you guys, and some of them would probably surprise people. Andy Hake's a guy that, kind of rubs some people the wrong way. But Andy and I have become really close. Brian Shaner up at Mineral Ridge is just a fantastic guy. He and I are in contact on a regular basis all through the off season. Actually, I can kind of let you in behind the scenes here. We're planning a day here at the end of June where he and I are going to get together and our teams are going to get together and we're going to bring in Youngstown Christian and Youngstown East and we're going to do a little 7-on-7 action.
All right.
And, just get each other sharp and, compare some notes and trade some more stories and really just get a chance for the kids to kind of interact with each other and get some work in.
From your perspective, how important is it to have that kind of coach fraternity help each other out, especially here in Northeast Ohio?
No, it is. I mean, at the end of the day, it's such a small fraternity of head coaches. There's not a lot of people that understand everything that goes into it and all the things that happen. Even as an assistant coach, I didn't really have a full grasp on, what all the day-to-day responsibilities and things were. So, when you've got guys that have been there and been through it, been in the trenches for a long time, they're willing to kind of put their arm around you and say, hey, if you need anything, just give me a call. It's really incredible. And, I think that we're lucky in our area because we've got a good mix of those guys that have been in it for a very long time and those younger guys that are just kind of coming into their own. And I think that you're starting to see, some more branches off of some of these coaching trees coming out where, guys don't even realize some of the connections that they have to each other.
Has anybody asked you, Matt, for kind of, some tutelage? I mean, you've been in it now 2 years, as a head coach, but you were in it a while before that as an assistant. Has anybody looked to you for kind of advice or anything like that?
Yeah, I think we compare notes more than anything. Especially like within your league. What I tried to do when I came into it was I reached out to every coach that was on our schedule that year and just said, hey, I wanted to introduce myself. I didn't want to like blindly walk into meeting guys for the first time on the field. And, some of those conversations were, 10-minute, yeah, nice to meet you conversations. Some of them turned into, hour and a half of, hey, this is kind of the way these things go. Watch out for, this over here. And, be careful with this team that's not, in our conference but is on your schedule. They kind of do some things a little bit differently. And then obviously, conversations about just the way that we do things as members of the league. I think of good examples being when we get to playoff time, I don't share tape on our league member schools with any schools that they happen to run into in the off season. And for me, that's just kind of a personal rule. But I've honestly, I'm such a fan of the guys that are the head coaches at these programs, even outside of being competitive with them, that I want to see them be successful, and I want to see our league be successful and get propped up.
Is that a situation where you root for them every game of the year except when they play you?
Yeah, and it's funny because some of them have mentioned to me, I think you tell everybody that you root for them every game except the one you play. You play them, and you do realize we play each other, right? So who are you rooting for in that one?
Well, who do you root for? I mean, now it's time to get down to brass tacks. I mean, it's an open conversation here on the Power Hour.
That's right. Yeah, honestly, there's a lot of those ones where I really root for a good game, and I think of like the Jackson Milton Western Reserve game last year. What an unbelievable game! And one of the things I tried to do was right after the game, I called Coach Grode and just congratulated him because I know what a big deal that game and that rivalry is to the Jackson Milton community, and the fact that they hadn't beat Reserve in so long, and to get an opportunity to do that with that group of seniors that he had, I just knew that was a really special time for him. So I just wanted to reach out and congratulate him on it.
Is it weird that it feels like that was years ago already?
It does, and it's crazy to think about because we're constantly flipping into the next mode. Once week 10 hits, my guys, we typically take a week or two off, and then we're cranking right back at it in the weight room 4 days a week. And now when the weather's breaking and being able to get nice, anytime we can steal some of those kids away that they don't have a baseball game or practice or a track practice or meet, we're trying to do some things and get the ball in the air a little bit. And, we're kind of a run happy team down here in Sebring, but we do like to kind of develop our pass game a little bit so that it's sharp for the season. And then right now it's a perfect time for us because we like to do some things outdoors and get some like strongman competition stuff going on where the kids just get a chance to compete against each other all the time. We're trying to develop that winner loser mentality all the time.
I love it. All right. I mean, we can go like this all show. I don't care because I love this. I love picking your brain.
I'll nerd out on it. Yeah.
So let's talk about this. I mean, with so many different coaching positions open right now, we saw all the basketball positions that have recently become open. There may be a football position still open somewhere around here. I know there was one that was lingering, and then baseball. Baseball, softball, any coaching position. What was your biggest intimidating factor from going from assistant coach to head coach when we jumped on the Sebring staff?
Yeah, it really is that interview process because what I kind of learned leading up to that was you really have to be prepared for that. And so, I personally I started doing some research and reaching out to some other coaches about, hey, what are the things that you took with you into this interview to make sure that you were as prepared as possible? And one of the pieces of advice that I got was from Scott Springer, our former head coach, and it was write out your football philosophy. Write down this is Matt Seidel's philosophy on how the game's played, how the game should be played, what we're going to do, and what our vision is for the future here at Sebring. And so I wrote mine out, and as a Sebring guy and an alum and former football player here, it was really easy for me to sit down and kind of put words on paper. And I ended up with, I think it was 17 or 18 pages. I can get kind of lengthy when I type things out. But it was really cool to be able to sit down in front of them and lay down that plan and say, here's the vision that I've got. And if it matches up with what you guys want the vision of Sebring football to be, then let's hop on board together and let's get there together. And if not, hey, somebody else is eventually going to be aligned with that vision pretty well.
So let me ask you this question, because you were an assistant coach, and so many. I mean, there's assistant coaches outweigh the head coaches by far. Obviously, you have way more assistant coaches on staff than you do head coaches. Typically, sometimes you see a co-head coach position, in not just around here, but in the country, because that's what schools like to do. They don't like to just necessarily have one guy to point the finger at, but two. So let me ask you this question: when did you realize that you were ready to step out of the shadows, so to speak, and into a head coaching role?
Yeah, it's different for everybody. And I think for me, it was just the right situation. The year that I became the head coach for Sebring, that senior class that we had, I had been their coach in 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. I had them in 7th and 8th grade. I moved up to the varsity level with them in 9th grade. And then I was away from the program for 2 years, living in Canfield for a little while there, and eventually made my way back to the area. They happened to be seniors, and the timing was just right to kind of grab those guys that I was really emotionally connected to, and be able to get them over the finish line for their senior season.
Do you miss ever being an assistant coach and not having to take like all the brunt of a win or a loss?
All of the time. And it's not so much on the win or the loss side, it's the administrative side.
Yeah.
You get bogged down in some of the minutia of, budgeting and trying to figure out, running all the fundraisers and just trying to figure out all the different things that are away from the side of the football game that is the reason that we're ultimately there, because we love the game of football. It can get daunting at times, I guess is probably the best way to say it.
All right, let's get real here. A little brass tacks action for you. Let's start off with the positive. What's the best part of being a head coach of student athletes?
Yeah, I think, any head coach that you talk to that's, one of the good guys in the area is going to tell you that the best part of being a head coach and the best part of coaching, period, is just getting an opportunity to influence young hearts and minds. I mean, we've got so many kids out there that are, looking for some leadership and looking for positive male or female role models in their lives. To get an opportunity to take some of those kids and show them that, with a little bit of work and a little bit of effort, there's opportunities out there for you. That's really important to me. And I think that, one of the coolest things is when you start to have kids that come back and they start to become, productive members of society, and they start to get involved in their community. And, we place a big premium at Sebring on volunteering within your community. It's something that I always kind of prided myself on, and I wanted to make sure that our players did too. And so to see them take advantage of, volunteer opportunities, whether it's with the Salvation Army or the Parks Department, or, we had a bunch of kids together last night serving dinner at the veterans, at the AMVETS down in Sebring. That's important stuff for me. And that's the coolest part of coaching for me, is to see those kids really transition from being kids into being young adults.
All right. The other side of this coin, what is the most challenging part of being a head coach in today's society?
The most challenging part is it's definitely right there with it. And it's the fact that it's always bothered me that there's kids I haven't been able to reach. There's kids walking our hallway that I look at all the time and think, man, if I could just get them to be a part of our program, I could really help that kid turn his life around. And, the ones that we lose probably weigh on us way more than the ones that we get a chance to influence. There's still kids that I think about at the elementary school level, back when I was coaching the Little Trojans, that I think, man, if I just could have got to that kid, it's always about one more for me.
And that's the funny thing. You and I have been friends over the past year and a half or so, got to be really close with each other and go through not just on screen but off screen about who we are as individuals, why we do what we do. And you're impressive. I'm not going to sit here and try to raise you up on a pedestal, but Matt, you're impressive, and there's others that feel the same way. When did you realize that you can influence others as well as you do?
I honestly, it's going to be kind of funny, and honestly, I really appreciate the kind words, DJ, and the feeling's mutual, because the things that you're doing and the things that YSN's doing, and I don't want this to turn into an hour-long slurp fest of us with each other. But I think you're going to laugh at this. When I was in 7th grade, I had a history teacher, and we did some sort of big report. I can't remember exactly what it was at the time, but I'll never forget the words. And she said to me, "I'm looking forward to the day where I can vote for you as president. You've got a unique and uncanny ability to reach your peers and reach other people, and I look forward to seeing what you're doing with your life." And, that kind of set me on that path of, okay, what's the bigger purpose here? And, politics was not my calling. I'm a little too wild outside of life for politics. I think I'd probably get drugged through the mud a little bit. But, being a leader in your community, it can be just as important. And, there's local opportunities all the time that, maybe people don't see at the national level. But, I think of people in our community that are volunteering for the parks department or, whatever community needs we have out there. Those are my heroes.
You know what's funny is I feel like we're on a job interview here. We're just trying to. I mean, naturally, the Power Hour is about just empowering and talking about sports in general, and this is a big part of it. You've been part of our team unofficially for, like I said, about a year and a half now, but you've really embraced it here lately. So, I guess one of my biggest questions for you is every leader needs to know their weaknesses and their strengths. So, if I was to ask you, what is Matt Seidel's biggest weakness? And if you say I don't have any weaknesses, that's my biggest weakness is I don't have any, I'm going to punch you in the face. I don't care how big you are. What is your biggest weakness? What do you feel that you have to work on every day in order to match up with other people?
Time management, hands down time management. I have to refocus myself all the time. And, we're lucky to live in an age where technology can be so useful for that. But I mean, I plan my minutes, you really have to carve out time. And then, the other part of it is probably just carving out that personal time, where you're not maybe being the first one to put your hand up and volunteer for every opportunity that comes up. It's really important to get some of that personal time and, really just kind of step away and relax a little bit. But time management it's been an issue for me since high school. And it's something that I work on every single day.
Now, you're a very, very prideful man, and you talk about it all the time about, you want to be involved in everything. So let me ask you from this standpoint, when have you ever almost overextended yourself to get too involved in too many things to where you weren't as effective?
Yeah, I think that that's a real danger, especially for coaches in our area. We're talking about a lot of guys that are at small schools or smaller schools. And so there's a lot that gets asked of you outside of, just the day-to-day coaching stuff. And you really have to learn how to say no to some of the things that are out there. And it's really hard to do that because everything feels like it's just as important as the next thing or has just as good of a goal or a reason behind it as the next thing. And so prioritizing those things can be really hard. And if you don't do it, you spread yourself extremely thin. And I think that that's why we see some of the burnout with some of the young coaches. I've heard of guys that, get into it and in 3 to 5 years, they're just completely toasted because they spread themselves way too thin. They didn't have the time, with family or, friends outside of, just doing all the coaching stuff and everything that can come along with it. So my advice to young coaches would be to learn to delegate.
Okay, that's fair enough. The next one is we'll do one more and then we'll go into some back and forth here after we take a break. But the one of the biggest ones, you've been an advocate for so long, naturally product of Sebring, and now you're coaching Sebring. You've been an advocate for small schools and some of their challenges, but also their successes that they've had along the way. What is it that you feel is the biggest challenge for small schools in this day and age that, with open enrollment and, even taking it to the college levels, the transfer portals and things that in local recruits? I mean, open enrollment's, depending on how you look at it, it's either a problem or a solution to being a small school. But what is the biggest challenge and why do you advocate so hard for small schools?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest challenge, especially in the season that we're in right now in education, is the smaller schools seem to just keep getting small. And there's a lot of factors that go into that. But I think the frustrating thing always is that, some of the people that are at bigger schools or not necessarily the coaches, but sometimes it's just community members at some of the bigger schools, look at the smaller schools and say, well, yeah, okay, that's D7 football down there. There's a huge difference between that and what we're doing up here. And what they don't realize is there's a ton of opportunity for kids at the D7 level. And I always hate when people have that, D1 or bust mentality, because getting a Division I scholarship is absolutely life-changing. It can be a fantastic thing. But let me tell you from personal experience, a Division III opportunity to play football and get an education is just as life-changing as the opportunity that comes at Division I. And you can really change, the way that your future is set up based on the opportunities that you have. And those opportunities exist at D1, D2, NAIA, Division III, wherever it is, junior college. Take advantage of what's out there to you. And if you're a kid out there and, you're sitting at the end of the bench on an 80, 90 member roster, and you think, man, I miss just being able to play football and have fun. There's smaller schools out there that have opportunities for you available. And the education's great at most of those smaller schools because you get some of that one-on-one attention that you might not get at a larger school. And it's not a knock against larger schools. It's just it's the economics of how many kids there are to each teacher. And so I've been a big fan of small schools for a long time. Obviously coming from one, and I know you're kind of in the same situation coming from EP. And I've always had a special place in my heart for the smaller old TCL schools and ICL schools in the area, because I think that there's fantastic educational and athletic opportunities at those schools.
All right, we are talking with Sebring head football coach Matt Seidel, who is, of course, a regular here on Power Hour, but it's rare that we get a chance one-on-one outside of football. So we're going to pick your brain a little bit more. We'll talk a little bit about some national stuff, but a couple more questions. If you have a question for a head coach of a small school or of Sebring football, or just as a fan of Matt in general, drop it in the comments section. We want to hear from you, certainly, when we come back. All questions are warranted. Yes, we're saying all questions. Nothing's off the table. Sure. Matt is a pro. He can handle it. So all that, and as well as our G. Berbick Farms, What's Your Beef, What's Your Filet? We come back after a word from these great sponsors of YSN.
High-res Futurecast shows steady snow for the next few hours.
Still just downright cold.
It is bitter out there.
Several strong bands of lake effect snow.
Winds is kind of the big story today as well.
So if you need a more detailed winter forecast on WFMJ.com and the Storm Tracker 21 app.
Myers Family Insurance knows the importance of a great team.
Our team continues to grow to help you with your Medicare and retirement needs.
The annual election period is October 15th through December 7th. Now's the time to make sure your plan continues to meet your needs for the upcoming year.
Call today.
I went to Greenwood Chevrolet because I was really interested in looking at the tracks.
Because I wanted my dream truck.
Because I've been going there for 20 years.
I'm really happy that I went
to Greenwood Chevrolet.
Because they really went
the extra mile for me.
Now we're going the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Hello, I'm Greg Berbick with G. Berbick Farms. For the last 100 years, my family has farmed in Columbiana and Mahoning counties. I began raising cattle in 1996 with the goal of providing a better product for you and your family on the dinner table. Our grass-fed and grain-supplemented Black Angus beef are raised with no hormones, steroids, or antibiotics. We're known for our hometown-friendly service and incredible tasting products. We're locally owned and have customers across the tri-state area. Our products go from our farm to your family. Stop by our farm on New Buffalo Road or visit us on the web at gberbickfarms.com. Don't forget to like us on Facebook. G. Berbick Farms, it just tastes better.
Hi, this is Tommy Clem, owner of WRS Insurance Solutions.
WRS Insurance Solutions is a local, independent agency that specializes in life, Medicare, long-term care, and disability products. Call us at 330-953-3722 or visit us at wrsinsurancesolutions.com to learn more.
Good luck to all the student athletes in the Valley.
Right now is a great time to get more for your trade-in at Tri-State Ford and drive home in a new or pre-owned vehicle. Choose from our great selection of new Ford models or pre-owned vehicles. Plus, get the Tri-State Ford Advantage, including a 10-year, 200,000-mile warranty and more. At Tri-State Ford, we'll pay you top dollar for your trade, but you don't have to purchase one of ours to sell us yours.
Customer focused, community driven. Tri-State Ford East Liverpool or visit tristateford.net.
And welcome back to the Ysn Power Hour special edition here. It's a little two-square action, as Coach says. DJ Yoakley, of course, Matt Seidel with you. Coach, before we hit the break, we talked a bit about small schools. This is a very interesting time for schools, and we don't want to necessarily say the R word, but open enrollment is in full effect, and you felt the pains of it. You know coaches that have also felt the pains of it, but also they've been able to benefit from it a little bit. So open enrollment from a coach's perspective, what does it look like?
Yeah, it's kind of a funny time to be in the coaching world and be seeing some of the things that are going on out there. And, there's a lot that we're kind of projecting what it's going to look like, especially after coronavirus and, with some of the online opportunities that are presenting themselves with schooling now. But the other thing is now that open enrollment's kind of, a huge thing. It definitely wasn't this way when we were in high school. You stuck where you were planted and that's what you did. But we're seeing more and more of it. And I honestly think it's a good thing. And not just from a perspective of kids coming in, but kids getting an opportunity to go out too. I realize that we might not have the program that kid's interested in all the time. I think of, one of the things that we don't have is we don't have anything for, agricultural students really, which is usually surprising to people because I know most of the guys down there at HQ think I'm in the middle of a cornfield out here in Sebring. But, we've got neighboring districts and I think of, West Branch and United and, some of those districts that do a really great program or job with their ag programs. And, we've had some kids in the past that was something they were interested in. And, so they took some opportunities to maybe transfer out to a United or somewhere and get an opportunity to be involved with that. But, kids coming in too, education. And one of the things that I tell my guys all the time is education's 100% what you put into it. You're going to get out what you put in. You could be the best student in the world, and if you are in a terrible school district, you're still going to be a great student. You could be the worst student in the world, and if you're in a great school district, you're still going to be a terrible student. Mm-hmm. So you've got to apply yourself to get the things out of your education that you need. And, for some of these kids that maybe need that more one-on-one experience, they can come over to a place like a Sebring or a smaller school like a Jackson Milton or an East Palestine and get an opportunity to have a little more of that focused attention and still have the opportunity to compete in sports and maybe even open other avenues for sports competition.
So here's a crazy question that I'm often asked on, hey, have you ever asked this question? So let's throw it out there.
Absolutely.
Does open enrollment and the ability for kids and for kids' parents and whatnot influence your way of coaching?
I don't think it does, and I think that's a really good question because, you run that risk as a coach of, if your style doesn't match up with the way that a kid wants to be coached or, the way that a parent thinks a kid should be coached, they do have that opportunity now to say, hey, we're going to go elsewhere. But, I think that the rules are still stringent enough that, you do have to sit if you open enroll from a public to a public for, just if you're not moving, if you don't meet one of the 5 exceptions, you're going to have some time where you've got to sit. So I don't think it necessarily changes the way that I coach, but it may change the approach I take with, a couple of different parents from time to time.
All right. Yes or no answer.
Yeah.
Do you ever fear a kid leaving because playing time or other reasons?
I don't ever fear a kid leaving because of playing time.
Okay.
we've got plenty of it to offer. I mean, I had 23 kids on my roster last year, so if you could walk and chew gum, you probably were getting an opportunity on the football field at Sebring last year.
Let's throw down a double card here. Let's split them. If you had the numbers, would you change your style of coaching? Because this kid, I'd rather go to, wherever, school B, if not for your school, because of the way that you're not playing me. Is that a real fear for coaches, do you think, nowadays? Because, high school coaches have essentially become college coaches.
To an extent, I think that we're more cognizant now of, having to try and reach every single kid on the roster. But I think that the good coaches have kind of always done that. If you asked Dan Yeagley, if he's changed his style of coaching, he'd probably tell you yes, but he hasn't changed the person that he is.
Right.
And, those guys that, are just the legends, the Mount Rushmore of local coaching, if you will, they don't change who they are. They just adapt to the time.
Love it. All right, we have a question/statement from Jim Bartell, a longtime fan, of course, legendary father of Ty Bartell, who was down here earlier at HQ. Matt, I coached baseball for 15 years and was a scoutmaster for 10. It is refreshing to hear the reason why you coach is to donate your time. I feel the same way, but not every coach or I'm not sure what that is, for the same reasons. God bless you. So there you go, a little bit of love. Coach or lead. There we go. Coach or lead. There it is, Jim. Thanks for the help. I appreciate it. Something like that, because here's the real situation is coaches, officials, just generals, leaders in general, don't get the pat on the back, the encouragement, the thank you, the recognition, whichever way, and it's not why you get into it, right? Especially from your standpoint, but stuff like this is nice. Stuff like this is, hey, it not legitimizes what you do or why you do it, but it's nice to know that people see the way you do it and why you do it.
And I think that there's a lot of us, and I've talked to some other coaches about this. It's a really hard thing because we almost get embarrassed when we get the thank yous and things like that, because that isn't why we do it. There's deeper reasons to it than that. And, I think that all of us at one point were that kid that had a coach that changed their life a little bit, maybe, went a little bit out of their way for them. And that's maybe what influenced us to become coaches. But, it's been a really interesting lesson for me in, kind of being able to humbly just say, thank you. I appreciate the fact that you recognize it.
All right, so here's a little bit of a twist. And we talked about the open enrollment side. So many people have talked and said, listen, if there was a transfer portal in high school, how neat would that be? Is that something that I don't want to say it's necessarily on the horizon, but is that something you'd be open to, is seeing a transfer portal at high school and saying, oh, we could really use this kid at Sebring?
So it's got to be done the right way. I think that it's kind of inevitable at this point. For a long time, college didn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. And now all of a sudden it's, becoming extremely commonplace in college athletics to have a transfer portal open. And we're seeing a ton of kids in it. YSU had 3 today that are coming in. I think it's inevitable. And I think that when we start to talk about, we always want to do what's in the best interest of the kids, right? And so, is it in the best interest of the kids to give them an opportunity to make a one-time move during their high school career? Maybe things didn't pan out the way they thought they were going to pan out, or maybe, an unfortunate circumstance happened. And, we've seen it in the past. We unfortunately, we had a kid that came in, and this is way back when I was an assistant coach the very first time under Jay Brophy. And this kid's parents just had an extreme run of bad luck, and they ended up having to move in with family members in Sebring. And the OHSAA wouldn't let him play for Sebring, even though he lived in the community, because they couldn't prove that they did, because they weren't paying any bills while they were living with their family member. And, the stories like that, they just really kind of break your heart, because you want that kid to have an opportunity, and they had no way of getting him back to his home district to participate in athletics there. So I would like to see the OHSAA become a little less rigid on some of the rulings that they make with it. But I don't necessarily think that a just open transfer portal where kids can say, hey, I think that team's going to be a state champion next year, and so I want to run over there and be part of that team for a year. And then, kind of what we saw with Hoban and Massillon and a couple of those schools this past year, where, I think there was a kid at one school that he was on his third high school in 3 years and had made it to the state semifinals every single year, just jumping from school to school.
So from that perspective, if there was, could you put a boundary around a kid, like where they live, and you can go here and here, but you're going to lose 2 games. But if you go further than let's say a 5-mile, 10-mile radius, you're going to lose 4 games, and then further than that, you're going to lose. And then can you do that? Can you put a basically Mighty Ducks situation with the Adam Banks of the world on what we're looking at right now in the future of jumping ship, so to speak?
So I'm going to advocate for something, and I think that people are going to right away look at it as, oh, well, he's a D7 guy, so of course he's going to advocate for it to be that way. But one of the things that I've always thought is I like the way in college how if you moved up in division, you had to sit, but if you moved down in division, you maybe had opportunities to not have to sit. And I think that, there's some opportunities out there like that for high school athletics too, where, a kid maybe realizes, hey, I'm not D3 material, but if I can move down here to D5, I can be a successful high school athlete. And then the other thing is, I really don't like the way that everything is so centered on athletics with transferring right now. I think that we lose a little bit of, the educational aspect of it. And my guys personally get tired of hearing me say that the dictionary is the only place where you'll find, success before work. They hear it from me all the time, and, they get tired of it. But, I'm such an advocate of education and doing things the right way in the classroom and making sure that you're getting your work done. Those are the avenues that you're going to take. And when we talk about it from a recruiting perspective, those colleges, the first question that we get as coaches is, what's he like as a student?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so from your perspective, obviously loyalty is one of the 3 pillars here at YSN and what we're built on. Do you feel like there's less loyalty nowadays from parents and students per se? And I'm not talking about Sebring and your own program, but I'm talking about just in general. Because from where I sit, it feels like they're going to get theirs no matter where they have to go. Do you feel the same way about loyalty kind of leaking out of the bottom of the boat here in high school sports nowadays?
So that's a tough question, because I feel like the answer is yes and no.
Okay.
You definitely see it at some levels. I think that we're pretty lucky in the Valley that we don't see it as often as maybe, the Akrons and the Clevelands and Columbus and Cincinnati areas do. But at some of those bigger programs, I think that that's a lot more of an issue than it is, at the smaller levels. And even our big programs, our Boardmans, our Canfields, I don't think they deal with that as much. I'm the first person to be a huge proponent of things like Springfield's doing it all in-house. They're doing it with their own kids. I love to see that. But there should be opportunities for kids to, be able to join a program or be a part of a culture that is a successful culture. You should have the ability to look at things and say, I don't know if that's the right fit for my kid. But this one over here is definitely the right fit for my kid. There's a choice.
Let's talk about your surrounding staff. As everybody points out to me, being a married man, a man is only as good as the woman that puts him out there. So in my case, I think that she put out a pretty good man. I'm not going to sit here and pat my back, but it's only because she's that awesome of not only a wife, but a mother and just a general human being. So let me ask you, very similar to that is a marriage between a head coach and his assistants, because naturally they are a reflection of you. They characterize you. They represent you wherever they go. how important is it to surround yourself not only from a assistant coach perspective, but also from a leadership perspective with people that you can trust, people you honor, and I hate to even say this because it's kind of tacky, but people you really cherish?
Yep. No, I think it's extremely important, and when you're building a staff, the first thing is you got to be able to trust your staff. There's so many different places that head coaches get pulled throughout the year. And I can think of times I've even been pulled away from a practice to take care of an issue and had to leave my assistant coaches to kind of run things on the practice field. And so I'm incredibly blessed because I've got a staff that's, I think, second to none. And, one of the things that I've always said about hiring coaches is when I hire assistant coaches, it's not always 100% about what they know on the football field. I can train them up to coach a position. I don't want to be cocky about it, but I'm pretty confident that I can coach them up to coach them up. But I'm looking for guys that are good men, that are good leaders of men, and great role models for our student athletes. And I think that I've been extremely lucky to have guys like Wade Smith and Jamie Regai down here around me, and to have young guys like Dalton Smith, who, came into my program as a 21-year-old assistant coach. I think we actually got him before he was 21. They had to create a little bit of a loophole in our roles down here, but I was so adamant about the fact that I needed him to be a part of our program. And he's my strength and conditioning coordinator. And honestly, I feel lucky because I've got the best one in the area. I know there's a lot of people that are going to say that theirs is, but I'll put mine right up there. Dalton is top notch when it comes to our strength and conditioning program. And he's a kid that really used the weight room to kind of turn his life around. And the connection that he builds with our student athletes is just, it's incredible. And it frees me up to do so many other things in the off season because I know that I can just turn it over to him at, 21, 22 years old now and know that he's going to do the right thing all the time and take care of our kids.
You talk about that connection with kids. Obviously, Dalton has it. You have it. How do you build that relationship? How do you have to start at the foundation and move up? How is it that you're able to build those relationships with kids that you don't necessarily even know as they walk into your locker room?
There's a great quote out there, and I think all the best coaches kind of live by it. I heard it said once that, kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so for me personally, the approach that I've always taken is, relationship building takes time. You can think about it in terms of dating. You've got to spend time getting to, the place where you're in a serious committed relationship. And it's the same way when you're building a relationship with kids is, they got to see you at things. And so one of the things that I'm always on our staff about, and my guys are great about it, is we're seen outside of just being football coaches. My guys show up to basketball games and they travel to away basketball games. There might be a random Wednesday this spring here where we say, hey, let's make a rundown and go watch the baseball team play, or let's go support the softball team. There's 4 girls on the softball team that were water girls on the sideline for us this year, and we want to make sure we go support them too, so that they know that they're loved and appreciated by our staff as well.
All right, and one of the last ones I'm going to give you, because we still got to get to the G. Berwick Farms. What's your beef? What's your filet? Any advice for someone who is on the fringe of jumping into the coaching, quote-unquote, profession, or the coaching league, I should say, or the fraternity? What advice would you give them, and what kind of, warnings would you give them as well?
Yeah, so I think the best piece of advice is just to do it, because honestly, it's the most rewarding thing that you're ever going to do. To spend time with young people and really influence their lives. Just jump in there and get involved in any way that you can. And for the parents that are out there, please absolutely get involved. We've got plenty of opportunities for you to be involved with our programs, whether it's on the fundraising side or, running our touchdown clubs or whatever it might be. I know, we do team dinners on Thursday night, and we've got a group of mothers that take care of that for us. And that is enormous to me because they go out and fundraise it. They take care of all that. It's one less thing on my plate. The word of caution that I would probably give anybody that's interested in getting into coaching is be very careful of the way that you present yourself in public, because there's eyes on you 100% of the time. And unfortunately, in the culture that we're in now, everybody's sitting there with a video camera waiting to go and waiting on you to slip up and waiting on you to make a mistake, because there's no more fun pastime in the United States right now than catching somebody doing something they're not supposed to do.
Those are great words. Those are strong words, my friend. Chris Sigler, I don't know if you caught it as you were talking. Finding a good assistance is very challenging in today's high school sports climate. A lot more involved now, not just about X's and O's. And I think he's got some great points there.
Yeah, he's 100% right. And, if you can find a guy that's good with the X's and O's and can also, be a good leader and mentor, that's a guy that you want to bring into your system, and you want those kind of people. And I'll just put it out there right now, because I know we've got a decent sized audience. I'm looking for guys always. We're always tinkering with what we're doing, and we're looking forward to potentially, hopefully, bringing back our junior high program this year. Our district's been kind enough to give us a couple of stipends at the elementary school level, if we can get a flag program off the ground with our elementary school. So, if that's something that you're interested in and it piques your interest to work with elementary school level kids and just teach them the fundamentals, head coaches are going to tell you at the high school level that they can tell the difference between the kids that had the elementary and the junior high programs, because they've got the fundamentals down when they get to them.
All right, here is your last question, I promise. I know you're big on trophies. I know you're doing the history of Sebring trophies and things of that nature and the pride of the program. My question to you is, what's more important 20 years from now? A young man walking into that, I don't even know what it was called, like where your trophies are, your trophy room, and seeing his name on a trophy, or walking back up to you and saying that because of you, I'm getting feedback. Because of you. Man, this is tough.
I'm not hearing it on my end.
Okay, because of you. I'm gonna. It's driving me nuts right now. I can hear myself, and it's getting crazy. All right, it's gone. All right, because of you, they were able to get a college scholarship or a college degree in some form or fashion. What's more important, the trophy? Yeah, somebody's calling now too.
I think, and I tell my kids this all the time, trophies are fun. Trophies are nice. We all enjoy having the shiny stuff to put in the case. But, ultimately my goal at the end of the day is I can't wait for the day when they invite me to their college graduation. I can't wait for the day that I get to show up to one of my kids' weddings and see them walk down the aisle and marry the love of their life. I can't wait for the day when, my kids come back and introduce me to their kids, and I get a chance to see them become great husbands and fathers and members of their community. And, they run for political office, or they lead a business, or, they start a charity, or, any of those things. Those are going to be the proudest moments for me, because those are going to be the things where I look back at the end of my life and think, that's the legacy that I'm leaving.
And if you don't want to play for this guy, I don't know who the hell you want to play for. Matt, thank you for opening up for an hour. This was like the longest Coach's Corner ever, but I think it was neat.
No, it was kind of cool. And, again, I don't want to make everything completely Sebring-centric all the time, but I do want to be a voice and an advocate for our smaller schools, because there are fantastic people at every single level of high school athletics, and really our teachers too. They don't get the respect that they deserve and the attention that they deserve. And, so find those people, and please be a part of their program. Ask them how you can help. Find ways to get involved. The more that we all come together, the better we're going to be as a society in the long run.
Are you sure you don't want to run for president?
Maybe a local office one day.
Attaboy. All right, let's get to our G. Burbick Farms. What's your beef? What is your filet? Matt, unfortunately, you're the only guy on the other side, so it's all yours, buddy. What do you got?
Yeah, let's go with the filet today. And my filet is just, the great coaches in our area that are tremendous stewards of their program. Looking back and kind of looking at it, we're the head coaches, but it's not our program. It's the communities. It's the school's program. And to be able to stop for just a little while in the head coach's chair and be a steward of that program, I know it's something that a lot of coaches in the area, really take a lot of pride in and realize the weight of. I think that, we've got tremendous people in our area, and I'm honored to be a small part of it.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat from that standpoint. I'm going to take these out because I got feedback. But I would say that at the end of the day, it's easy to get wrapped up in all the hubbub that is going on and the politics of everything seemingly nowadays, and the coronavirus, and is it over, is it not, what's going on. I think we all just need to stop and smell the roses a little bit. The weather's getting a little nicer. Baseball, softball, track and field right around the corner, so we're going to be able to enjoy that. But most of all, the majority of us are doing what we want to do, or what we enjoy, at least to a percentage. For me, we talked about it earlier. This is my dream, and I'm living my dream, and I'm doing it for obviously me and my family, but I'm doing it for you as a service, and that's the best part of what we do. If this did not impact or influence future generations, then we probably wouldn't even worry about it. We'd probably hang it up right now. But guys like Matt Seidel, great leaders around of all around our area, I just want to say thank you and for the opportunity to do what we do on a daily basis. So congratulations. I hope everybody is able to kind of kick the bad habit now that the snow's over, and hopefully, fingers crossed, Andrew DePaulo, I'm looking at you. If we're able to kick all the bad stuff and focus on spring training starting here in a little bit. Baseball, softball, spring sports are here starting on Saturday. So I'm excited. I know the guy in purple's excited, and Billy McCartney. What's wrong with purple? It's a royal color. There's nothing wrong with it at all, as I try to get my headphones back in now so I can hear you. But the reality is this backdrop was supposed to be blue, and for some reason, and I think it does have a little purple in it, and I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. We like the purple.
Special thanks to all our sponsors that sponsor this show. And again, if you'd like to get involved in sponsoring YSN, all you have to do is go to ysnlive.com/advertise and get started today. We have $100 a month all the way up to $1,000 a month, and you get a little bit more every step of the way. A lot of bit more, as a matter of fact. You're getting way more than your money's worth when you advertise with YSN. So on behalf of Matt Seidel, my co-host today, I appreciate you, Matt. Thanks for making the last hour very enjoyable. Thanks for everybody that's tuned in, and thanks again to all our sponsors that support us each and every day right here on YSN. We'll see you tomorrow for a Friday edition. We're on our way to the weekend, 3 to 4, right here on your sports network. Sayonara, suckers.